All right, so I think we'll get started. So I just want to welcome everyone and thank you for being here with us today as we present our Stride Talk featuring Action Dignity Society and our guest speakers, June and Rafia. Thank you so much for being here with us today. So I'm just going to do a little introduction. My name is Jessica and I'm from the John Humphrey Center for Peace and Human Rights. We are a local nonprofit charitable organization working to advance dignity, freedom, justice, and security through collaborative relationships and transformative education on peace and human rights. Before we begin, I just wish to ground us and acknowledge that JHC is located on Treaty 6 territory in Amesquichy-Waskahigan, which is Cree for this place we call home, also known as Edmonton. In particular, I wish to acknowledge the Papas-Chase First Nation on whose land JHC resides on today, a nation that was entirely displaced from the land to make way for the ongoing flow of settlers. As we do this work, we should all continue to remember how the ongoing manifestations of colonization and genocide impact the spaces we live in today and in the work that we do. So some of you may not be aware of what Stride Advocacy does, but Stride Advocacy is a community-based volunteer advocacy program which works to help community members who are struggling with human rights issues and discrimination to document, draft, and file their issues to the appropriate human rights mechanisms. Stride is a team working to use those mechanisms, albeit not perfect, to push for changes in spaces that affect our daily lives, within workplaces, businesses, and those public spaces where we all belong, but yet where many continue to be excluded and pushed out every day. If you are interested in learning more or becoming a volunteer advocate in Stride, please feel free to reach out to us. We'll put our email in the chat. And if you have any questions throughout, feel free as well to put those in the chat. We would just like to thank our funders, the Canadian Bar Association, Government of Alberta, and Canadian Race Relations Foundation for their support of the work of Stride Advocacy. So what are we all doing here today? An important part of community building and addressing human rights issues is knowing where to go for support and resources for human rights matters and facilitating access to justice. These Stride Talks are meant to be a space for community-based advocates to learn more about tools to guide people to the right resources in the community to address these issues and support advocacy. So before I turn it over to our guest speaker, I just want to go over housekeeping. Our guest today will speak for 20 to 40 minutes, depending on their presentation, and then we will allow time for questions. And during the Q&A, we will turn off the recording. Please feel free to put your thoughts or questions in the chat or raise your hand during the Q&A. If you put questions in the chat beforehand, we will make note of these and make sure that they're answered during the Q&A. We ask that you be respectful and open-hearted in your engagement. As I said, we will be recording the session so that we can present this later for people who weren't able to make it or for future training, but we will shut off the recording during the question period. I'll also be putting a feedback survey in the chat, and we just ask if you have 2 minutes of your time to fill it out. That we would really appreciate your feedback and suggestions. So with that said, I just want to thank you all once more for joining us, and I would like to welcome and hand things over to our guest speakers, June and Rafia from Action Dignity Society. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Jessica. Hello, everyone. And if you may allow me to share my screen. I wondered whether you are now seeing my screen.
We are just not on full screen yet.
Okay. Perfect. So my colleague Rafia will be starting off the conversation, and then I'll follow through after her.
Hello, everyone. I'm Rafia, and I work at Action Dignity as the Gender Equity Coordinator. So I'll be starting today. At Action Dignity, we believe all our work is based on the anti-racism lens. So we view everything with the anti-racism lens, and we believe that we all pay the price when people are overlooked, dismissed, unheard, uninvited, ignored, and silenced. So anti-racism plays a huge part of what we do. know that racial discrimination leads to loss of human dignity. It prevents people from accessing their basic rights to economic, political, and social justice, and it hinders their active civic participation. So we understand that discrimination occurs at different levels at the individual, and individuals have different experiences. So we try as much as possible to ensure that all the structures and systems that uphold inequalities, we address them, and we use our work to address everything that has to do with racism. So we look at policies and mental models that keep inequalities forever, and those are the things we address as Action Dignity. Overview of Action Dignity. Action Dignity works, we spread Alberta-wide. It's a registered charitable organization, and it has 147 ethnocultural community members. So we have partners with 147 ethnocultural community members, as well as 100 individual members. So these are the people that form the membership of Action Dignity. We work with these organizations and we have a lot of engagements with them so as to ensure that the society, there is an inclusive society, and we are responsive we deal with responsive public institutions as well. As per our visions, missions, and values. So our desired future is a Calgary that is just an equitable society for all. We work together with ethnocultural communities, racialized and equity-seeking groups to create transformational changes in our communities and societies. So what our values are, these are the fundamental beliefs and principles upon which our strategies, actions, and decisions are built. So the first one is respect for diversity. The second is equity and social justice. The third is active citizenship and democratic participation, as well as the last, which is collaboration. Then with Action Dignity, we have this theory of change. So that's the edge that Action Dignity has. So on our theory of change starts with the building of civic infrastructure. And we believe that if racialized community members are empowered to connect, define issues, and address common concerns, they will become engaged and active citizens. So basically, the starting point for us is to build this civic infrastructure with our community, ethnocultural communities. Then from there, we move to building the capacity of grassroots social change leaders. So by grassroots social change leaders building their capacity, we believe that if social change leaders from racialized communities are equipped to plan, design, and execute programs, they will build community through collective problem solving. So basically, when these grassroots grassroots organizations, when they are able to have the capacity to know the know-how for them to be able to identify these issues, to plan, to design, and execute the projects themselves, then it will be the catalyst for the collective problem solving that they'll need in the community. Then we also collaborate intentionally at that level. We believe that if a network of stakeholders is convened intentionally, it will serve to foster interactions, share learnings, build partnerships, collectivize voices rather, map systems, and collaborate on a range of pro-equity programs. So by collaborating intentionally, this will be at the level where we are thinking of who are the stakeholders that we're going to deal with. So we've identified the communities, they've identified the issues. Then the next step is build their capacity. The grassroots organizations are the ones that are able to design, to plan, and execute the program now. So they will be the ones collaborating intentionally with stakeholders, such as so that they can build the partnership and be able to, collectivize their voices and map out systems that they're going to address in the systems change process. Then the final level is the catalyze collective impact, because as a critical mass of racialized social change agents is motivated, mobilized, and equipped with knowledge and skills and access to a network of stakeholders, they will deploy a range of culturally appropriate initiatives, which will lead to systems change. So that's the fourth level of our systems change process, whereby we believe that at the end of the day, by collaborating, building the capacity, building the civic infrastructure, that will be able to catalyze it to the level where we will be changing the systems. We will be working with the stakeholders, we'll be working with the policymakers to ensure that everything that is done is culturally appropriate. And these initiatives are the things necessary for systems change. So transformational systems change processes are triggered to enhance the abilities and actions of racialized community members to address the effects and root causes of inequality. So basically, these are the steps which Action Dignity takes in ensuring, in facilitating systems change, the process. So we do our work through community connectors, community development, community participatory action research, and systems change and policy advocacy, which my colleague will be talking about. Yeah, sorry, I've not done with that. So we do our work in these key ways. So we build leadership capacity of ethnocultural communities. So like I said, in the process of the systems change, we help to build the capacity of these ethnocultural communities. We organize, mobilize, and mobilize communities to address issues that impact them. So this is done as part of the process as well. So our actions are driven by the best results of participatory action research led by ethnocultural groups and their members. So we focus on these ethnocultural groups. They are the ones that will sit and decide, through series of consultations within the group to identify the issues that they want to address in their community. So ours is to ensure that while they're doing this organizing and mobilizing, they are identifying the issues and they participate and they do all that is necessary by way of research to ensure that the goal of the process is met. Then a crucial aspect of our work is also to raise public awareness and public awareness, ensuring that people know what we are doing. So like what we are doing now, people know what we are doing within the communities, the specific communities, they understand what's happening, why they are doing this, so that everyone is aware, and then they will move to the policy and systems change work. So we do all of that, public advocacy and policy advocacy, meeting with stakeholders, collaborating with other organizations to advocate for the systems change that we want. Then, like I said, we work through community connectors. That's one of the unique features of Action Dignity, because these community connectors are advocates and connectors embedded in racialized populations. So they are members of the racialized communities. They connect, they provide support to grassroots organizations, they amplify the voices of the communities to inform decisions towards improving policies, programs, and services of government, public institutions, and service provider organizations. So basically, what these community advocates do, connectors, what they do, they are members of the community. They are like foot soldiers, foot workers within the communities. They better know what's happening in their communities. So they act like a kind of facilitators to ensure that they amplify the voices of the community between Action Dignity, their community. They pass on, they bring the issues to the fore. They identify the active participants in the communities. They help towards advocacy as well. They help towards building the capacity of their community members of the communities they work for, and they also help with the work of policy advocacy and systems change. So my we go take
Yeah.
over from there.
I'll take off from there, but maybe just to add that the community connectors, they understand the nuance of the cultures, and that they also speak the language or languages, because some of them would be able to speak 2 or 3 languages, and that the other tasks that they also usually do would be to also understand what are the issues and concerns of individual racialized members, and that they connect these members to the appropriate services or organizations. Like, say, if one member of an ethnocultural community is struggling with mental health, so our peer and natural support would normally connect our connectors and support and help that member. So moving on to the next, approaches of action dignity is our community development strategy, and that we understand that it is a process where community members come together to take collective action and generate solutions to common problems, especially in situations impacting the communities. And that it requires building their resiliency and building their empowerment as well. To action dignity, community development also means bringing together the talents and resources and skills of people in the community to increase their collective power and work for social change. In some ways, one of the key highlights or traits of the community leaders that we have is that they would have this ability and find common solutions that are culturally appropriate for them. And that through this process, they go through some collective analysis of the situation, and then the community as a whole would create a community action plan. And this is what Action Dignity is also supporting the communities to develop their activities, identify outputs and timelines, and through a process where they would be able to analyze their situation and visualize what the community would look like after 3 or 5 years. And this means as well that they scope and prioritize issues and form some community work plan to address the issues, and that they are also part of, on top of planning and conceptualizing, but also implementing and monitoring the projects that we support or that we work together with the ethnocultural communities, in the hope that they also build, through that process, we build their capacity. We build their capacity in terms of their needs. So usually when we have a community action plan, we also identify what are the capacity needs, so that they would have the ability to roll out the community-led action plan. And through that process, we will either provide workshops or on-the-job training, or it could be simply just a mentoring, and that we all celebrate together as we go through the milestones of the projects that we support, that we work alongside with the community. So that means our community development would require leadership development and community capacity and community mobilization. In most cases, within the programming of Action Dignity, we provide seed grants, small seed grants to allow the community to implement their community-led action plan. Otherwise, when these are like requires huge investments and huge activities, then we help them write the proposal and help them also talk to funders, and then we become their charitable partner if they were favorably, their proposals are approved by the funders. And the other major approach of action dignity is a community-based participatory action research, and this is where an involvement of the community members on an issue that matter to them, not the issues that matter to us, but this is something that is shared issues, and then we proceed with to investigate and deep dive on it. And the way we do that is to bring together all the leaderships and members of the communities and understand what their issues are, and then help them as well in the conceptualization and the implementation, and also talking to their members to collect information and help them as well. And they also are part of the analysis. And a classic example of that would be the more recent community-based participatory action research that we did. And it's entitled Deep in Our Minds, Isolation and Racism. And we worked with about 7 ethno-racial groups, and together we formed the focus group discussion guidelines. And then they also help in terms of in terms of organizing group discussions in their communities. The other work that we do is also our platform strategy. And that our platform strategy, if I were to have an elevator pitch on it, simply it means, working together with ethno-racial groups, with grassroots organizations, with equity-seeking organizations, so that we can learn together and mobilize resources together so that we can implement a community-led action plan to address the key concerns that the communities are facing. So in creating that platform, we make sure that we just don't convene. We also foster that interaction and making sure that we build capacities to learn and share, meet and greet, share learnings from the implementation of the programs by various partner grassroots organizations, and that we meet very regularly to build that partnerships. As I have mentioned earlier, it is not just about helping them to scope the issues, prioritize problems, and develop their community action plan, but also to resource them. And within the programming of Action Dignity, we support them with small grants, but for some other instances, we would also connect them to funders and help them through that process. And in brief, the platform means a network of ethnocultural, racialized community groups and organizations who share a common vision of a just and equitable society and are committed to working towards effecting change. And within that platform, you will see, different, key players from the communities, and as well the funders, the policymakers, individuals and volunteers, equity-seeking groups and organizations, and ethnocultural communities. We put them together to understand and learn from each other, and that we also act together on an issue. And that includes not just the issues in terms of programming or meeting the immediate needs, but really appreciating as well what are the structures and the conditions that create and maintain the inequalities and inequities in the communities. And we, together with the members of the platform, address those or analyze it and address key solutions to the problem. So these are the key activities that we envisage for the growth of our partner organization. So we are a member organization, as Rafia has mentioned. We have 147 cumulative members, and that they are part of the platform strategy. And in that, we have laid out plans to make sure that our platform members, they also grow in the process, that they have a stake in this, in this partnership, and that they also benefit from this partnership. And that means enhancing our membership base, strengthening understanding of pro-equity, anti-racism, and systems change frameworks through workshops and training, enhance the capacity of grassroots social change agents, and through our leadership training, and facilitate learnings, action, and collaboration among grassroots ethnocultural organizations, and strengthen network building and facilitate collaboration. So in the end, it really is about creating, it's like Action Dignity is a convener. Action Dignity is a field catalyzer that ensures that all the key players in the communities have a space and have a voice, and at the same time would have that ability to really address the concerns that they have. Moving on to the next, work of Action Dignity is our systems change and policy work. And we take on systems approach because many of the problems that we see and the communities are facing are wicked. They defy easy categorization or solutions like public safety, mental health, or even gender-based violence, or so all those issues would be very complicated, and most often what the communities would see would be the symptoms without really appreciating what are the root causes. So we must go beyond the symptoms and deep dive the conditions that hold the problems in place. We take on the systems because we rely on systems. They provide us with critical reference points, and they anchor the way we live and the way we work. They give us consistency, standards, and structure, measures of accountability, and measures of success. So when systems are imperfect or uneven, as we are seeing now in the communities where we are, these create advantages and opportunities for some while placing others at a disadvantage. It also makes it easier for some people to succeed over others. Systemic flaws perpetuate power differentials and inequality and have consequences for our entire community, such as we see in the disparities in mental health or health in general, or disparities in education, income, and justice, where we see preponderance of racialized communities at their most disadvantaged. The recent COVID-19 exposed the chronic issue of the disadvantage that racialized communities are facing. Towards transformational systems change, Action Dignity builds the civic infrastructure, as explained by my colleague Rafia, and for racialized community members to connect, define issues, and address shared concerns, so they will be engaged and become active citizenship. So the civic infrastructure for us and the connections that Jan Hapre is working on or adopting as a key strategy are very important to build social cohesion, to ensure that there is that social scaffolding that makes sure that people are connecting, people are validating each other, and people are also understanding what the issues they are facing in the communities. So the way we work and address the systems change is through is being guided and influenced by by this water of systems change thinking, where we see the key conditions of policies, practices, resource flows, relationships and connections, power dynamics, and mental health as key to holding in place the problems that we see in the communities. For example, public safety, the practices of the police in terms of flagging or apprehending or addressing, sort of like, how should I say it, Rafia? Not just only apprehending, but really violating the rights of the ethno-racial communities, a matter of practice, as it is also a matter of the expression of their mental models of how inferior and dispensable racialized, particularly the Black and Indigenous people, as our research would show. And so this would mean that we need to address those if we were to really want to see a more long-term change in the communities where we are. Now, just to give a more visual presentation of how we do this, we engage the community, and then through community-based participatory action research, we scope the lived experiences of racialized communities so that then if we have the results, if we have the findings, we engage stakeholders and decision makers, community partners to make a sense of the information that we have so that it can inform and guide policies and strategies. Now, if I may be more current on how does it actually play out in the work, in the current work that we do. This is a photo of focus group discussions that we are having, but this one is a photo of the youth, but just to give a picture of how it looks like when we do our community engagement. And then from there, once we scope the lived experiences, engage the stakeholders, the photo that you see here is a recent one. This is with the Anti-Racism Action Committee, the City of Calgary, academician, non-profit organizations, Indigenous groups. They all came for that 2 roundtable consultation to understand, the information that the lived experiences of racialized communities, and that will inform our the City of Calgary's anti-racism strategic plan for 2023 to 2027. So that's how we work alongside of making sure that we are not just addressing the direct needs of organizations or ethnocultural community members, but we also make sure that we have to find a longer term solution by making sure that we are also addressing systems and structures. And that includes policies as well, as demonstrated in this graph or in this slide. I think I end my presentation there. So yeah, I'll probably have to stop sharing. If you have questions, let us know.
Amazing. So I'm just going to turn off recording now, and then we can get to questions. Give me 1 second.